Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Pass me the right filter. Thank you.
Okay, how much time do we have?
Anybody here good to go or? Yeah.
Keep going, we need to leave.
Think we have an hour for sure? We have an hour?
I have an hour.
I have an hour. Anyone?
Let it roll.
I guess whoever doesn't have an hour will get the video. Shmuel, you're good with an hour?
Let's see. Okay, so what I'm doing this year, the first two shiurim, the best way is to go in order. And usually when I go in order, I don't even go in order because I don't want to lose people. The first two shiurim, they're very geschmack, but they're philosophy. And people today need you to get into kishkas. Even if it's geschmack and it's deep, not in a certain way it's not satisfying. So I like to do like the first two shiurim are philosophy, then all the rest, even when you go in order, are psychology. Or what's the difference between psychology and philosophy? Philosophy is what is the emes, what's logical, and psychology is how come I can't do X even though I'm convinced that it's logical and it's emes. I mean, the first step is to figure out what's true. But even once you know it's true, like people think if I would be by Har Sinai, if I saw everything, if I was totally convinced, then I'll be perfect. It's the biggest narishkeit. 99% of life begins after you know something's true. The whole 120 years of life is not struggling to find truth. I could give you truth in 5 hours. Everything you ever needed to know.
Their day it was like that.
What?
Their day it was like
Yeah,
that.
but everyone's like that. I'll tell you, the world just recently started hopping that this is how they are. I used to go to college campuses. I would do my same old kiruv shiur, like my philosophy shiurim, and everyone loved it, and it was amazing. And then all of a sudden, one year, everything stopped working, and they would look at me like, Rabbi, like, what are you doing? You think my problem is I don't know what I should do? I pay $30,000 a semester tuition. I get drunk every night. Not that I don't know what I should do. I can't do the stuff I already know. Like, take your stuff, put it in the back of the line. When I ever get around to the stuff I already know, then I'll get around to yours too. That's psychology. That's like the second struggle. The first struggle is, what should I do? Can you prove it to me? And then once you can prove it and you know what you should do, now, how come I haven't budged? I'm still exactly the same place I was, and I can't do it. So that's psychology. That's insecurities and fears and shame and a whole 100 other things. So really, those shiurim are the most satisfying, because when you get havana into what makes you tick. Another way of saying it is, I say that, you know what philosophy is? Philosophy is, I'll say it like this, that I was very into like all the philosophies from when I was a bacher, like the Chavos Havavos, Sha'ar Yichud, and I realized no one learns Sha'ar Yichud because when they put out the Feldheim, which is like the newer version of the Chavos Havavos with the Mefarshim in it, so it has a whole Hakdama, and the Hakdama is like every single sefer that says you shouldn't learn Sha'ar Yichud, which is the first parak, which is the really most exciting one, the deepest one, and I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with the fact that people held you shouldn't learn Sha'ar Yichud. And I assumed the reason why people didn't want to learn Sha'ar Yichud is everybody's afraid that if you get involved in philosophy, you're going to become an apikairos, or you're going to stir up questions that you don't have answers to. And I knew that like, Nachman was really against philosophy, and it always bothered me, like, why is Nachman against philosophy? And like I looked at it like, why is everybody insecure? Like, don't they realize that we have whatever kashas there are, we have better answers? If you really believed that we had answers to questions, then you wouldn't be afraid of philosophy. So I assumed that the reason why people are afraid of philosophy is because they're insecure about Yiddishkeit, and that you're too chashuv to be insecure. And it bothered me when you have a chashuv person who's insecure about Yiddishkeit. You say, like, just because you're not a maimon doesn't mean I'm not a maimon. Like, you don't believe, so don't share your insecurities. Let other people learn philosophy. We're very strong. We'll be fine. There's good answers. That's how I looked at it. Until I realized that the emphasis, there are people like that. But at least in case of Rav Nachman's problem with philosophy is not kfira, and you're asking questions you don't have answers to. Rav Nachman's problem with philosophy is amazing. His problem with philosophy is like, who cares? Like, what does philosophy have to do with anything? You know whose business philosophy is? Philosophy is how does the world work? How does everything make sense? That's God's business. That's God's job, the world. What's my job? My job is how does Yitzchak Feldheim work? And that has nothing to do with philosophy. That's all of my cranking and everything in my head. And that's what I have to study. Philosophy is God's business, how the world works, and our job is how do we work. And that's really Ramachan's issue, is that the problem with philosophy is it's just a waste of time. All of life is about psychology. How come I can't get out of bed? How come I take shortcuts? How come I can make excuses? How come I blame? And how come whatever, all the different, I distort and I twist and I manipulate, all the reasons why we avoid the emes in our lives. And that's really the only thing we should study. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the beginning. Because the beginning will do philosophy. You should just know that if it's not so satisfying, it's only 2 shiurim. Okay, maybe 3 if we go really slow. But then you get to the philosophy. You're supposed to go organically. We get into the truth, and the truth leads you into actually doing it. So let's start from the beginning. So it's not going to sound like a share. It's going to sound like, I don't know what, not even a lecture. But what we do over here is I want to prove God. Okay, there's no faith. Okay, we're going to see how far we could go using just your brain. Literally just math. Okay? So how far could you go? That's what I do. I do my first year, at least it used to be in colleges, was this. It's called God for Grown-Ups. And it's meant for atheists. And my response to the atheist is it's very cool that you think you're an atheist. Good for you. But you learned about God when you were 4 years old. And now you have a graduate degree in physics. Of course you're an atheist. The only thing that doesn't surprise me that you're an atheist, it surprises me that you're proud of it. Are you proud of every 4-year-old notion that you debunked? Grown-ups don't walk around saying they don't believe in Santa Claus. Because it's not considered a big oif to. Of course I don't believe in Santa Claus. The tooth fairy. Okay? But really, it's much cooler that you don't believe in the tooth fairy, because the tooth fairy you learned about when you were 8 years old and started losing your teeth. So it's already 4 years more sophisticated than God in your mind. So you should boast that you don't believe in the tooth fairy. So I would taunt them. You pick a fight with the atheist and you say, so you say like this. You say, come, take your coat off and make yourself at home. Yeah. So the response to the atheist is it's very cool that you're an atheist. You learned about God when you were 4, and now you're grown up. Of course you don't believe in that God. It's a childish God. So let's deal with adult God. I'll tell you what God is for grown-ups. I want you to be able to be an atheist. It's very cool to be an atheist. When someone says they're an atheist, what are they really saying? People say, what are they really saying? They're saying, what?
I'm free. You're good.
Yeah, it's deeper than that. I'm shallower or deeper. I'm not sure. What they're really saying is, they're saying, I am much smarter than you. You're not in my league intellectually. I can't say that because I sound like a sicko. But when I tell you I'm an atheist, what I'm really saying is I'm the smartest guy in the room. You're all a bunch of losers. It's just an ego trip for most guys. That's like a guy who has an ego and needs to be the guy. Atheist is like an automatic. So I said, listen, I don't want to rob you of that little head trip.
Is there an aspect of control to it?
What?
Is there an aspect of
Maybe it's a lot of things. This is just a gimmick to start the share. I don't know, it's not that important to haggle over it, But I'm just telling you what I used to tell the guys. You have to get in their face, otherwise they don't listen to you in college. They're not coming to a share because they actually want to know. They're coming because someone gave free pizza, and they're there, and you have to sort of smoke them out of their safe zone, get them invested in the share.
You might be able to prove they're the smartest guy in the room, so...
Yeah, you're right. So if you taunt them, you tell them that you get in their face, then they're going to have to...
Wouldn't someone call themselves an atheist so they could not have the conversation?
Could they what?
So they don't have to have the conversation. It's I'm better than you, I know it already.
Yeah, so that's why I have to
They're
smoke...
not inviting you to talk about
Right, so that's why I have to smoke them out. You taunt them. You have to trash talk them and say, listen, I get it that you want to tell people how smart you are. And I don't want to rob you of that. That's a very cool feeling, and it's a shortcut way to get some covered without actually earning it. So, but I want you to have that. But the problem is that the God that you don't believe in is a 4-year-old God. So I'm making you an offer. I'll tell you who grown-up God is, and then you could debunk them. Then you can be an atheist and you can be proud of yourself. You know. So I'm offering you whenever you're ready. I haven't take me an hour. I'll tell you who God for grown-ups is, and then you can debunk that, and then you can be an atheist for real. But if you don't call me until you call me to have that conversation, you're not an atheist. You're just a coward. That's what I told. That was my spiel. You know.
That really gets them going. They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So, but you do it in public, you know. So you do it in front of the whole crowd. So then, you know. So I say, here's the shit. This is it. This is God for grown-ups. So it starts a little slow. I'm not going to do the whole. This shorter ways to do it. I'm going to do it a little bit of a shorter way. It's fine. You don't need to do the longest way. It gets you to the same place. The problem is when you want to prove anything philosophically, the hardest part in the journey is establishing. When you build anything, you need a foundation. You need bedrock. You need something that you can build on. The hardest thing is finding bedrock, something that we all agree on. If we could find something that everyone accepts as emes, then we can see how much you can build on that. But if you can never get to something that everybody agrees on, then you can't say that there's Torah, and obviously, and I'll prove it based on Torah because he doesn't accept Torah. But is there anything that we could agree on that we could start a conversation? Meaning, if I want to prove you things, building on what? What can we start with? Anyone have any proposals that what would satisfy you? Yeah.
I mean, assuming that everything around us exists currently. like,
Okay,
that's
that's a very fair thing to say, but you have Dre Cups who will not accept that in college. You know, how do you know you exist? Maybe it's all a dream. Maybe you're dreaming. Maybe it's all a dream. How do you know it's real?
Okay. I mean, even if it is a dream, it means something exists in order.
Good, that's good. So maybe good. So so not that everything exists, but that's how I would say it. That's a good. What you're doing is good. I would say like even if we're dreaming, so there's a dream. That means something is. So if something is, I don't know what it is. It's a dream, reality. I don't know what to call it. But it's what can you say? If something is, so what can you say is a fact? Nothing isn't. So we already established there's not nothing. Okay, we have a fact that everybody accepts. Nothing isn't. Is that you good with that? Nothing isn't. So now if nothing isn't, what does that mean? It means that something is. Right? We're not defined as something, but if nothing, so the first two facts that we know are real is that nothing isn't. If there's not nothing, that means that there is something. Right? What's the first step up from nothing? Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So we can establish that there is existence. We just established existence. The dream is not going to get you to escape establishing that existence exists. Everyone understands how? Okay? So we can do it this way. This is one way to do it. Let's stop by existence for a second, and I'll show you the shorter way. I mean, no dialogue. It's like this. This is a good way to do it. Imagine that we're on a desert island. We wake up from a shipwreck with amnesia and what do you call it when you lose your memory? Amnesia. Whatever, your entire hard drive was reset. Right? You have a concussion and everything. Whatever, you have no data in your head. So that's a good exercise to figure out what do we know is real. You wake up on your back on a desert island. What do? What's the first thing?
Look around.
What?
Look around.
Why?
See what's around. See where you are.
Curiosity is very advanced feeling. What comes before curiosity? Breathing. Okay. So breathing is automatic. You'll breathe. What's the next thing? After you're breathing. You're breathing.
Hand off your back.
What?
Yeah.
Comfort. You start. You almost there. What?
You realize you exist.
There's all deep things. What's the first? What's the first thing? You're on a desert island. The first thing you're gonna what?
You're confused as I am. You're tripping out.
Okay, that's intellectual angst. What comes to this? What?
If I wake up
Food?
like
You're hungry? Is that the first thing?
Make sure you're not injured.
So it's not a bad answer.
like a Jew.
It depends who you are.
It's not a bad answer. It's not a bad answer.
Check your
What?
body to make sure you're not injured.
Well, you don't even know what injured is.
Self-preservation.
I mean, you know it hurts.
What's the
Turn
first
around.
thing you're
Try
gonna
to face
feel?
it up and turn around.
So you're not good at imagining.
God.
Close your eyes. Be on a desert island. Okay. What are you feeling? You wake up. What are you feeling?
I'm alive.
Pain, probably.
What pain?
Loneliness.
There's a deep existential pain. So what are you gonna feel? So,
Sun.
so you said food. You're gonna be hungry. That's true. But you're gonna be thirsty before you're hungry, right? But before you're thirsty, you have to ask me what the weather is, right? If it's freezing cold, what's the first thing you're gonna feel?
Cold.
You're gonna feel freezing. If it's burning hot, you're gonna be burning, right? So the first thing, possibly, unless it's perfect weather, the first thing a person waking up on a desert island is gonna need is shelter. That's the first human need. Does that make sense? If it's too cold, does anything come before too cold? Yeah, if you can't breathe, if your head is covered in sand, so you're gonna have to breathe. Okay, so after breathing, if you're not suffocating, you're shivering. So the first thing you're gonna look is to get rid of the cold. Okay, now that you got warm, now what? Now you realize you're thirsty, right? You get a drink. Now you realize you're hungry. You get food, and now you can start thinking about all your deep stuff, right? Like look around, because once you got shelter, drinking, and eating for the first time, you have luxury. What are you not feeling? Physical pain, right? There's no physical pain. So now you're not owned by whatever you're not owned by your nerve endings, and now you can stop and think about. Again, we're assuming you don't have any broken bones or anything, right? But if you're still intact, shelter is first, thirst, hunger. Accept that. When you get rid of pain, now you're safe, and now you can start to look. What do you do now? So now, as soon as you have no pain, you have luxury, and in luxury, you can start to look for pleasure. You can improve on the foods. If you ate seaweed, now you can look for something chicken. You'll discover however you go about it, but you can start to improve on the stuff you find. So you started off with seaweed and drinking who knows what. Now you find coconut milk, and then you figure you can cook the chicken, and then you find ketchup and.
Wow, that
Right.
one's a lot.
What?
That one's got a lot.
Luxury
Yeah, I thought it was a desert.
Not only that, then there's another shipwreck, and some girl gets washed up onto the island, and now you share your chicken with her, right? Because maybe love is better than chicken, right? And then somebody, I don't know, then like a shas gets washed up, and you realize that learning is better than love, and like you dump her and you go learn all day, right? Whatever it is. But I'm saying there are right? Or an Xbox gets washed up. I don't know, whatever. But there's other things that you might. What happens is, as we go through life, what are we doing? Can we figure out what we're doing? What would you call this process? What do we know? This is all stuff without a Rebbe, without a priest, without education, without philosophy. What is the human being going through? In the absence of all information, all education, what is the essential human drive? What do you call that?
Survival.
Pleasure.
So survival is the word people say. I just don't like that word because I don't have a drive for survival. What's my drive?
Living.
To be alive.
Avoid pain.
To avoid pain, which ultimately that's survival. But I'm not thinking about surviving. I just don't want to hurt. Right? Survival is making it deeper. I don't know why they use that word. There's no drive really for survival. At least it's not. It's definitely not the base drive. The base drive is solving my pain. Is neutralizing pain. Survival as a word is a very deep idea. The purpose of man. I don't know what it's about. On the simplest level, before you get too deep, human beings are driven by removing pain. And then as soon as pain is gone, now you look for pleasure. So pain and pleasure are the realities of life. That's where I like to start the share with, because everybody agrees on that. This is what drives us in the absence of education. So if we want to start with a bedrock, we don't have to go the whole existence, non-existence, and it gets to the same place. Once you start talking about existence, you go, how do you measure existence? How do you choose between existences? And eventually you get to the point that there's better or worse existences, and you come up with the same words, pleasure and pain. But there's a lot of journeys to get here. But I don't think you'll find human beings who will get to the point that they're going to argue that the instinctual... If you were writing a book on the desert island of religion, not religion, you're writing the rule book for life, there would be thou shalls and thou shalt nots, and the thou shalls are all the things that give you pleasure, and the thou shalt nots is like don't eat poison ivy and don't, like it's all the things that you shouldn't do. As you discover things, and that's a very rational religion. It's not even a religion, it's just science. At that point, religion, science, all the things are all the same. Where they start to become different is when you break away from pleasure and pain. But if all you're going to hang your hat on is pleasure and pain, then everyone's in agreement. You didn't add in any things I need faith for, or, where you need extra deus is when I'm telling you to do something even though it's pleasurable. Or do this even though it's causing you pain. Even though it's pleasurable to do something else. When I'm telling you to break with the natural pleasure and pain, then that's where life gets complicated. I can tell you, Haba, there it's bad, and there Haba, it's upside down. Whatever is good here is bad there. So I'm gonna have to sell you on that, and then we have to figure out if we can prove that. But right now, let's go. We're not doing that. Right now, we're just going in order. We're gonna see how far we could go just using just logic. So we accept that everyone's on board with saying that pleasure and pain is a valid. If we use nothing but math from here, we're good? Okay. We get to like paraduma straight from here. Shotness, it's good? We'll see. We'll see.
Why is your physical needs, hence meaning i.e. pleasure and pain, more important than your meaning, you're like taking out the existence of his brain?
So I would tell you that all those aren't those pains are pains that you first have to have expectations of truth and order and system. And until you're cognizant of the existence of those ideas, you're not going to have intellectual pain. You're not going to suffer from loneliness until you've thought about things a lot and gotten a need for friendship.
Not if you believe that a person is constantly striving for something above his ken.
Well, who says? I don't know that. I don't buy that. So far we're using just logic. The only thing I know is pain and pleasure, and my thirst for anything beyond me is not like my thirst for water. You want to make an argument there are other thirsts, maybe, but it's definitely not on the same level as as all these pure essential pain, right? And you could argue how real they are or how much they're manufactured. Maybe we'll see as we go through things, but. Let's see, but the order is definitely shelter, thirst, hunger. That's the order. And then you can talk about loneliness and truth, and nobody's thinking about God or anything like that when they're freezing, right? Unless you learned about God already, and God is a way to warm you up, Gaddafi, and he'll make a fire for me, right? But again, then God is just the heater, the thing that's giving you heat. So it's still really not a need for God. It's a need to solve the heat. I'm just using God to solve the need for heat, right? Once I solve the heat, now I can think of God just for the enjoyment of understanding God. Okay, I don't want to get so complicated. Right now, all we did, anyone shouldn't think we said anything big. All we did was come to the point that pleasure and pain is what we're going to build on. So let's start building on pleasure and pain. You're on the island. You want to make life better. You want to you discovered after a week or so, look at me. Wow. First I was looking for warmth, then I started looking for thirst, and then I got food, and then I tried to get better temperature control, better drinks, better food. Seems like I like pleasure and pain. I think I figured out what my life is about. So, you know how much time I wasted? Like, eating crazy things that gave me rashes on my tongue, and how many is there a way I can improve on pleasure and pain over the way I've been doing it till now? Basically, how do we find pleasure and pain in the world? How do we find it? Really in the most inefficient way possible. We walk around, we feel our way around. When something feels good, we go, "Ooh, that was amazing, I'll do it again." When something's bad, we say, "That was a disaster, make a note, we're not eating there anymore. I'm not listening to that music, I'm not buying that book."
Trial and error.
Trial and error. That's the way, feeling our way in the dark. So when a human being starts to, again, not everybody would, but if a person is going to make the next step in growth, he's going to want to know, can I improve on trial and error? The only thing that I know in life that makes sense is pleasure and pain. I know that's real. Maybe there's other things that are real. I'll search for them. But right now, pleasure and pain is real. The way I'm going about them is very inefficient. I spend most of my time making mistakes. Is there a way we can improve on trial and error? So there are ways, Most of them are just pooling data, benefiting from other people's trial and error, creating websites that rate restaurants, and could be good, we could be all different, but it's definitely, if you read enough reviews and you get other people's thing, but that's really just trial and error. It's not a new way, it's just benefiting from a lot of people's trial and error. What would be a qualitatively better way to find pleasure and pain? Is there yeah.
You need to find similarities from something you already tried and apply it back.
Okay, good. So what are you looking for? When you're doing that, what are you looking for?
Making trial and error not one thing, but more.
So trial and error is going to help you find what?
Results.
What? What's the
What is
result?
pleasure and what is pain?
Defining pleasure and pain.
Okay, but results, defining, it's somewhere in between those two words. What are you looking for?
What causes pleasure and what causes pain?
And how are you finding that out? By comparing. How you find it out? When you compare all the things, what is the benefit of the comparison? When you're punching all that data, what are you looking for?
A larger, as opposed to if I eat one flour.
If I find 30 things I like, I have 30 things that I like. How did it help me find the 31st without looking at my? We're hoping that you're going to learn something. What am I looking to learn from my list? What?
Happiness?
You're trying to find the common denominator between your pleasures.
Oh, the common denominator. You're looking for what do all those experiences share? That's what I'm looking for. Does that make sense? Then that's a scientific way to find pleasure, not by trial and error, because then I can just keep on trying it. If I can I study all my pleasure and all my pain to see if I could find the common denominator? What are we really looking for when you're looking for the common denominator? You're looking for what is it? What causes it? What is pleasure and pain? If I can know what it is, then I could find it. I have no idea what I'm looking for. I just know how it feels afterwards. What causes it? What we're looking for is not pleasure and pain, the sensation. We're looking for the cause. If you could find the cause of pleasure and pain, then we could bottle it. Or we can just find that and know how to look for that and develop like a metal detector for pleasure and pain, a pleasure detector. And I can figure out how to avoid pain. Being that in this world so far, we've established that only pleasure and pain is real, and that's the purpose of life, is to have more pleasure and get rid of pain. So the single most important piece of information in the universe is what is pleasure, what causes pleasure. That's the purpose of life. So that's all anybody should really study. That should be the limit of the entire world, is what causes pleasure. We don't do that, because nobody knows. But let's do it now. Can we figure out what causes pleasure? Because you can imagine if you knew what caused it, you could save all the effort from all the ridiculous things and just zoom in on the right one. So how do you go about finding what causes pleasure? Common denominator. Make a list of all the pleasures in the world, or all the pleasures I've experienced, and is there anything that shows up in all of them? Yeah.
Serotonin.
That's a good answer, but that's not going to help me, because what I really am asking for is what?
Happiness?
You're just really giving me like a chemical process. I'm asking, what is the common denominator of all things that trigger serotonin, that release dopamine? I want to know the trigger. What? Because that's what I want to find. I want to find what makes that happen. How come I listened to this music, it happened? When I ate in that restaurant, it happened. When I talked to that person, it happened. When I went there, I saw that. Let's figure out, this is the most important idea in the world. What is the common denominator of all pleasure? Is there a common denominator of pleasure? So let's start. Let's make a list of,
Experience.
what?
Your experiences.
Everything, but that's a common denominator of every single thing in the universe, including pain. If you want to find the common denominator of pleasure, you have to show me the common denominator of all of the pleasurable experiences. You can't say experience because that's all experience. That includes pain also. I want the subset.
Yeah, why not?
Because then you're not going to find pleasure. You're going to find, if you find the common denominator,
It can be pleasureful.
if you find the common denominator of all experience and you replicate that, what you're going to get is experience. Half pain, half pleasurable, or whatever the ratio is of randomness.
It's your experience of it. It's how you react.
So that's my question. My question is, what is the difference?
Sing it's all in your head.
What is the common denominator of all things that cause my experiences to be positive?
Well, you're looking at two different things.
So the way you're saying it, let's do it your way. What is the common denominator of all things that make my head like them? Because my head also doesn't like things. So what is the common denominator of all things that my head says, cool? Can you figure that out? You just created a new word for pleasure. This is the word, right? So my question is what causes that?
Your
Fulfilling a need?
okay, I'm saying experience again.
What
The way you experience it.
what is the common denominator of all things that make you have a positive
Does
experience?
it not vary on the person? Does
What?
it not vary on the person?
It's possible, could be, and then we're wasting our time. But it would be nice if we could find. You don't give up so fast. First, let's try and find the common denominator. Maybe we'll have to have two categories. Maybe we'll have to have 47. Maybe there's 18 million, but maybe there's one. Lambda says let's start with one.
You go down two different roads though, because there's the things that instantly make you happy, but it's not a real lasting thing, and then there's the things that are lasting.
Okay, so you're already dividing. Well, don't cop out.
Experience two different
Don't
ways.
divide yet. Let's see if we can find the common denominator of all pleasures, lasting, fleeting.
The long-lasting pleasure.
I think. Listen,
got to.
I wouldn't ask the question if I didn't think I had an answer. I have a common denominator of all pleasure, lasting, not lasting. One answer to all pleasure. In fact, the rest of this year, after I say this, I'm gonna challenge people to find the exceptions or prove me wrong. Because I'm gonna say a very radical thing. That is the common denominator. Let's try it. Let's first try this. Here's how you do it. I'll give you the way you don't do it. Right. So the first step is let's take three pleasures. Let's take three pleasures together, analyze them, see if we could find the common denominator. Okay? Pick a song, a food, and an art. Something, a visual pleasure, an audible pleasure, and a taste pleasure. Pick a song, any song. Song?
Thriller, Michael Jackson.
Who? Thriller?
Thriller, Michael
How old are you?
I just threw a random
Like a Gilgal? What is it?
Holy shit.
Can we have one now?
Okay, Thriller, Michael Jackson. It's not a bad choice. Pick me a food. Pick a food.
Meat.
Meat. What kind of meat? Meat is like a zoo. Like what? Szechuan beef. What? Pick what?
Wagyu, I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, whatever. Meat. That's too like generic. I don't know. Like
Wagyu steak.
what?
More specific than me.
Yeah. Sino steak and glapai. Okay.
Really?
Cholent. Cheek meat and cholent. I don't know. Whatever it is, something a little more elaborate that we can bite into. Okay? Pick a song. What? A song, artwork. Pick an artwork. I know Mona Lisa. That's all anybody from. That's all. Not even from Jews. Even college kids.
The Last Supper.
The only answer anybody says is the Mona Lisa. Okay, whatever. So this one, I saw it. What's it called? Has a name? Kaisel.
Your average Jewish art.
Okay. Give me an artwork that has a name.
The Last Supper.
The Last Supper.
What's his name?
Here.
Good timing.
The Last
It is
Supper.
the season. It is the season.
The Last Supper Thriller, and you might as well say lobster. You know? Okay.
We're still not Jewish.
It's a rough crowd.
Okay.
It's like,
Very good. Very good. Okay. So let's go with it. Okay. Lobster. Okay. Lobster, Thriller, and Last Supper.
Lobster had a good argument in the show that you gave on this topic. Somebody mentioned lobster, and you said it's a little hard to explain that one because you've never had it.
Yeah, but it's all right. I'll make it up. So let's pick any common denominators.
Pleasure.
Okay. Well, what are the ingredient? One of the causes. What are the
Oh.
ingredients?
5 senses. But no, but no, that's
Everything's fine. Everything's but not bad. But let's see. What are the ingredients in the Last Supper? What's the Last Supper made out of?
paint, color.
Blue paint, blue pigment, green pigment, red, yellow.
what?
What's Thriller made out of?
Multiple noises. different
Notes, noises, vibrations, and okay. What's lobster made out of? Protein and probably salt and some paprika. It doesn't do anything.
Butter.
What?
Butter.
Butter. Right? So are there any common ingredients? No.
Not true.
There's no overlap whatsoever. There's no butter or protein in the Last Supper or in Thriller. There are no G minors in Lobster, right? No notes. They're all made out of their own set of ingredients. So there is no there can't be a common
They're all
denominator.
stimulated.
What?
They're all stimulated.
That's another word for experience. So is getting hit with a bat.
Yeah.
So again, so I said,
Some people like that.
I get it, but saying the word all experiences, well, they're all stimulations, which is the same thing as saying experiences, is not useful, because it's not a common denominator. You didn't shrink the set at all.
I guess you would say a proper combination.
Okay, good.
The right combination.
Good. Okay, that's a good answer. So let's see. So here's what I'm gonna show you. Okay, here's my unity, my answer. The answer is like this: is that if I splatter paint on a wall, it's a mess. I do it with a pattern on canvas, and it's art. I throw spices into a pot, and it's poison. I do it with a recipe, and it's delicious. I bang on pots, and it's noise. I do it with rhythm, and it's music. What's the common denominator of all the positive experiences? Order. Right? What were they? I called it rhythm versus noise, a mess versus pattern, recipe versus poison. So what is the common denominator of recipe, rhythm, and pattern? Order. So what I'm going to attempt to prove to you is that the experience of pleasure is the experience of oneness. All pleasure is the experience of unity. The beginnings of unity, there's different levels of unity as things get closer and closer. The first step of unity, the lowest level of unity, is order. Order is the experience that things are not random. It's the minimum unity. They're not random. They are related to each other. They're starting to fit. And as we go from order, we're going to go to greater levels of unity. I'm going to have to demonstrate this. I'm just telling you where I'm going before I go there. Yes?
You said that based on all these different combinations, the result is oneness, when I would say that based on what you just said, it's not oneness, it's a multitude of things that is in order, like you said before. How did you get to oneness?
Well, okay, I'm defining oneness as the state that order is the beginning of. Order is a progress from randomness towards what? What would you say? We have randomness. It's just disorder. Entropy.
Yeah.
Okay, randomness. Order is the opposite of randomness. It means it's not random. It means it's, what is it?
It's a combination of a bunch of different things.
What is the absence of randomness?
Yeah, order.
Yes.
Which means what? What is order? Order means that they're ordered around what?
I mean, there's a rhythm, there's a consistency.
Which means what? They're all connected.
Yeah.
That's called unity. Unity
Okay,
is
so combining a bunch of different
means that they're not. It's sort of like a binary question, but the truth is, it's not binary because there are different levels of togetherness, which we'll see. But at this stage, there's just random or connected.
Right.
Okay, so you don't have to use the word unity yet. You can call it connected, which really is the same thing as unified, right? It's only problematic to you because you think of unity as some very high level intertwinedness.
No, I was just thinking of a multitude of things to be one. Now it's like a jump.
Yeah, but oneness is a team.
Right.
A team isn't. We have unity. Doesn't mean shortstops and pitchers and there's no oneness. If you mean monolithic loss of self, that doesn't exist. But it's not random, right? Nobody has a problem calling a team unified, right? Because unified is a generic word. You're taking it in a very severe way. It's just the opposite of chaos is oneness. It means that it's not random. It's together.
Okay, I'm hearing you.
Okay, so let's see. Let's use words like let's use a more powerful word. Okay, random and connected. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to argue that every pleasure in the universe is the experience of that togetherness, connectedness, and every pain is the experience of separation and division. That's the theory. Let's test it. Okay, so you could easily think in your mind of convenient examples. Right, things and then the way you test it is a few ways. You see if pleasure increases as togetherness increases, if pain increases as separation increases. There's ways to test this theory, different ways. I'm going to cut straight. Let's do it scientifically, because you give examples, you can pick convenient examples and ignore bad ones. So the way you do it scientifically is you make a list of all ways of experiencing pleasure. Basically, for practical purposes, I say there are 7 ways that we experience the universe. We have 5 senses. We smell things, we taste them, we see them, we hear them, we touch them. Those are all physical, though. We also have thoughts. We experience the world intellectually. We also have emotions. We experience the world emotionally. We call them feelings, but emotionally. Okay? So we have thoughts and emotions and actions. There's 3 ways that we experience the world. Actions are the wrong word also. It's, what? Sensory, whatever, right? Tactile, I don't know, whatever. Sensory, intellectually, and emotionally. Those are the 3 ways. The senses divide into 5. So I just make it neat. I say there's 7 ways. Every single experience you have is one of 7 things. It's a thought, an emotion, a sound, a sight, a touch, a smell, or a taste. Is that fair? Unless, there are other, if you're in California or whatever, there are other, but let's just deal with the ones that we can verify, okay? I'm not saying that there aren't other extrasensory perceptions, but the ones that we can establish logically are 7, okay? Can we let's go through each one. Let's see if it's consistent, okay? Let's start with the eyes. Every one of these 7 things has pleasures and pains. Experiences, visual experiences that are pleasurable, visual that are pain. Audible that are pleasurable, audible emotional that are pleasurable. Let's go through each one quickly, very quickly, and see. What is eye pleasure? What are our eyes like?
Art.
What makes something art? Art is a word. What makes something artistic? We like when things match. We like when they blend. We like patterns. When you study the philosophy of art, natural art is symmetry. When even children are drawn without any education, you're drawn to symmetry when both eyes are the same sides and everything's lined up, nothing's crooked.
That way?
What?
It's always the way people like art that's just messed up.
Okay,
Abstract,
okay, so we'll see. Good, take a note. Okay, you think of all the cautious things that don't fit, but I'm arguing that all the low-hanging fruit and the sophisticated, all the different visual pleasures are matching, blending, patterns, symmetry. What do they all share in common? All those words. Matching, blending, pattern, symmetry. They're all different, they're visual versions of oneness. Is that true? Your question is, modern art is not matching, blending, patterns, or symmetry. Okay. Put it inside. We'll deal with it in a few minutes. Okay. We'll have a list of all the things that are kashas. But you hear the principle. Generally, the vast majority of visual pleasures are either matching, blending, patterns, symmetry, right? Somebody might like, right? In Shidduchim, no one's looking for the girl who looks like modern art. Right? Right? She had this really cool nostril over here. Like, it's not happening, right? Okay? Just in philosophy, these things are convenient to ask questions, but in the real world, we like symmetry. Okay, or matching, or blending, or pattern. Okay, but we're going to answer. We're going to have good answers. Okay, so that's what. Let's do audible pleasure. What is ear pleasure? What are your ears like?
Notes and chords and
Notes that do what?
harmonize.
Harmonize, symphony, rhythm. We know exactly when you broke the rhythm. You know, when you're off key. So what is the common denominator of symphony, rhythm, harmony? All versions of oneness? So ear pleasure is all oneness. Ear pain is when it was off. Eye pleasure was oneness. We didn't do eye pain. Eye pain is where the pattern is broken, where the colors clash, where things don't blend right, when it's asymmetrical, when things are off center, bothers us. Okay, fair? Everything's like this. You go through taste. The same thing with taste and smell. We know when it's harmonized. The chef is trying to figure out how to synthesize the ingredients, make everything smooth and fit, and the perfect balance. We know right away when it was off. And the same thing with perfume. I'm sure there are colleges in France that teach you like that. You know, lilac goes with lavender, but not with lilies or something like that, whatever it is. But there's a science. I don't know what it is, but there's a science to smell and sense. And there are professionals who get paid big bucks because they own that. And when they make a concoction, everyone goes, "Wow, you nailed it." You know, it's not random. You know, there are certain things like in modern art you could bluff and you can manipulate and ooh and ah. But if it smells good or it smells bad, it's real, right? Again, smell is a little less real than taste, but like. You know, I guess, and there are gray areas that some people like things spicier or sweeter, but generally, synthesis and harmony are a skill set that people know how to put together. Okay, but these are easy, the physical senses. The deeper ones are emotions and thoughts. But what are pleasurable emotions? By the way, hands also. Your hands like soft and smooth, right? And there are things that we're drawn to. We don't like jagged and coarse. These are it's unity and harmony. But let's do emotions. The emotions that make me feel good are empathy, love, caring, sharing, compassion, acceptance, friendship. The painful emotions are division, strife, jealousy, loneliness, separation.
What about the negative emotions that are affiliated with enjoyment, like power or
Why are they negative?
not necessarily negative.
You're already mixing in like a religion over here.
No, I don't mean that kind of power. I mean like whatever power over other people,
Yeah.
things like that.
First, I don't know if power is emotional, is it intellectual? So it might straddle the fence of both, depending on how you describe what power means to you. Is it, but what's wrong with it? Power.
Could it be described as, would you describe it as?
Power is power. I would see power as some kind of a many levels. Well, we'll see. We're gonna talk more about it soon. But power, at least at this level, is what is that there aren't things that are outside my control. There's no variables that I can control. There's a feeling that there's no loose ends.
Right, so it is order as well.
It's a craving for order.
Right.
I'm willing to manipulate people and control them so that they can't ruin my perfect system. I don't want to leave anything to chance or to somebody's autonomy that can ruin my system. But there's a craving for that contained, closed system. That's what I'm craving. That's my desire to be powerful.
Right.
or at least over others, and there are other drives for power. But what are intellectual pleasures? Understanding, justice, fairness, bird's eye view, to see the whole system, how it connects, to connect all the dots, to see the patterns, the system. All intellectual pleasure is oneness. All intellectual pain is disunity, where things don't fit, where things are not fair, out of balance, when there are gaps in reasoning and the dots don't connect and things are just random. Literally, we just went through every pleasurable emotion is oneness, every painful emotion is every pleasurable thought. The secret of all pleasure in the universe, according to this theory, is that all pleasure is oneness. And the deeper the oneness, the deeper the pleasure. If things are just ordered, so it's not painful because it fits, but love is much better than cholent. Like cholent's amazing, potatoes and beans and meat. It's like you did it. But if you marry somebody who's a vegetarian or allergic to meat, you might give up cholent because love is much greater than just order. It's actual oneness. And there are things that are greater than love. Right? We have every day Nebuch. We have B'nai Torah dying in the army in Israel. And their mothers gladly, willingly sent them to go fight in the army. Because their whole people, my whole nation, is bigger than love. The Israeli mothers love their kids, but they're willing to let them fight in the army. Why? Because it's my whole people. Right? It's bigger than me. But we'll see. We're gonna work it out more. But the argument is that all oneness is pleasure. The more oneness, the deeper the oneness, the greater the pleasure. The deeper the pain, the greater the deeper the disunity, the greater the pain. That's the theory. Let's test it now. You have exceptions? Let's make a list of exceptions that have come up over the years. Yeah.
I was gonna think of like an adrenaline junkie, like that
Good.
might crave like
Beautiful.
chaos.
Beautiful. What is the pleasure of jumping out of a plane with a parachute? Where's the oneness? It's a thrill. It's a real pleasure. Roller coasters. Any adrenaline trip.
Also, people who enjoy pain.
Okay. Masochism. Okay. Modern art. What's the thrill of building a sandcastle and jumping on it? Where's the oneness in destruct? You know that power.
Blowing up a building.
What?
Like that, where you could, like,
Blowing up things.
build it,
Blowing
yeah.
up things. Where's what?
A rage room.
A
A rage room. What's right? I'm saying destruction. What is the pleasure? There's We're making again. I want two things. I want pleasures that aren't unity, and unities that aren't pleasurable. Or these are different exceptions. Or pain that are unity, or you understand, or anything that disproves the theory. We're saying a very, very significant theory here. We're trying to explain the entire universe. That what makes you tick. Because bottom line is, you understand, all human beings do all day long is chase pleasure. That's the only thing we want. And no one has any knowledge of what it is. See, really what should happen is, if the world was rational, the way college would work, what should college be? Since everyone's goal of life is pleasure, so college should be nothing more than going to school to achieve maximum pleasure. Which really, technically, it's supposed to be. It's not articulated like that, because people have guilt trips associated with pleasure, like nothing wrong with it. But really, what everyone does in life is a search for pleasure. So what should happen in college is, the first year of college should be a total study of pleasure. Till we totally understand what it is, what are the options, what makes them work. And then the next years should be like intense therapy. You totally understand who you are. And then once I understand all of available pleasure, and I understand my nature, now I can choose my specialty for the rest of my life. Which field of pleasure is the most appropriate for me? That's what it should be. But it's not what we do. The reason is because nobody knows what causes pleasure, so you can't do it. So we just feel our way through the dark, and we hope you choose classes based on what you enjoy. The problem is that the fact that you enjoy something says nothing about if that's the right pleasure for you. Right? Everybody wants pleasure, but we choose our own niches in pleasure. But we choose those niches not scientifically. We choose those things very early in life. the kid who grew up with no money, so they think that and they suffered because they didn't get Hanukkah presents. They think the secret of pleasure will be being wealthy, so they dedicate their life to getting money. The kid who grew up with no siblings and nobody to play with thinks that friendship and love will be given pleasure, so he dedicates his life to being popular. And the person who grew up with older brothers who beat up on him all day long thinks being powerful will be pleasure, so he goes into politics, whatever it is. But people choose their fields based on childish experiences, which are real experiences, but it doesn't tell him anything about the nature of reality. That's just where he landed. I'll give you the simplest example. The kid who grew up with no money. So because he had no money, he never had a piano. So he never discovered that he was the next Beethoven. But that's not his deduction. His deduction is, if I had money, then I can have pleasure. He doesn't know what his skill set was because he never had money. So the fact that you grew up in a certain matzav doesn't say anything about the knowledge of pleasure. That is what we're doing now. We're discovering what causes pleasure is unity and disunity. And we have a list of exceptions now. Basically, risk-taking, adrenaline, destructiveness. What else? I don't know.
You said masochism.
What?
Masochism.
Masochism. Modern art. A big one is like rage, like road rage. You have a crowbar, someone will cut you off. It's an amazing experience.
It's justice.
Unity, the car's working, bro.
Okay, very good. Right? Or what about the people who go into random schools and shoot? That's a new style. Like shoot 30 people. Where's the oneness? They're obviously getting a thrill out of it. So that's an example of some pleasure that's not oneness. Now you could say that they're messed up in their head. That's not a good answer. Still, you showed a pleasure that doesn't. Yet we'll have to explain a pleasure that doesn't work. Saying that someone's nuts doesn't mean. We still have to understand the process. You understand? Okay, so what are the answers to the exceptions?
That's a will of people.
What?
It's taking care of a rutzin or a will in someone to do something. It's taking away something that they didn't have that they want. It's taking away a pain.
In which case?
Whatever they're doing.
No, so that's fair. In every
craving,
in
whatever
every,
it is.
But where did that craving come from? You're right. Meaning any single time that I have a craving and I satisfy it, it's going to feel good.
No matter if it's
because I got what I wanted.
Right.
I closed the circle.
They're technically band-aiding a lack of unity, and their application is generally incorrect.
Why is it a lack of unity?
The brain is telling them.
Maybe they're shooting everyone because they were having too much fun. They were too happy and they don't like happiness.
Who's the sicko that is in that scenario? Someone who grew up without a whole bunch of different things that.
Okay, fine. Okay. So we that's what I want to do. I want to come up. I want to come up with these kind of theories. Very good. So this is what I want to do. I want to figure out what the theories are. The neatest possible ways to explain these things and see if it satisfies us, or you think it's a kvetch. There's no room for kvetching here. Everything has to be a perfect answer.
The guy that's jumping out of the plane, he's trying to see how much disunity he can get to while still having unity. Because if he falls and kills himself, there's no unity. He went too far. How close to the edge can I get?
It's not a
Basically harnessing chaotic events.
And therefore what? That's not pleasure. That's not unity. That's a kasha. It's not a teretz.
They enjoy the.
They're enjoying something that's not unity. So that's not for me. That's not a good enough answer. That's a kasha. You found the joy. That's not oneness. They're getting a joy out of the tension.
They're finding joy in making oneness. Like someone who enjoys making art.
How are they making oneness? They're not making oneness.
Yeah, they're harnessing the chaoticness. Like you said, if they splat to the floor after a parachute, then they're not having fun.
Okay, that's because it hurt. But
if they knew the whole time.
But the guy who breaks things enjoys the splattering because it wasn't him. Right? Someone might get a thrill out of pushing the guy in the parachute out of the plane before he put the parachute on.
I guess that's also back to power.
So let good. Okay, maybe. So let me go through my answers to the different questions, the quick answers. I have a few different categories. Let me just do it fast because I don't want to spend too much time on this. But if you feel unsatisfied by any of the answers, you let me know. Let's do first. I go in order. The easy ones first. The first one is crowbarring someone to cut you off in traffic. Okay, what is the pleasure of that? The pleasure is revenge. What is revenge? Revenge is justice. the reason why people think it's a kasha is because we have a very shallow idea. When I say unity, we picture group hug. That is a version of that's emotional oneness, but there's intellectual oneness too. What justice is to your brain is what love is to your heart. Brain unity is justice. A minute ago, you cut me off and you were ahead of me and I was going to be late and the world wasn't fair. And now you're bleeding on the street. Everything's back to the way it's supposed to be. I mean, we got rid of the disparity in the world. Everything makes sense again. The thrill.
You can tip it in the other direction.
What?
Even if you tip it in the other direction, now he like has to eat.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you're blinded to that. If you felt that, it would bother you. Okay. You're so wrapped up in what you have, you're not seeing clearly. You're not looking at nuance. But you're right. If you chop that maybe you went too far. You know when his wife comes and his kids and they're crying over him, then you realize, maybe I went too far. Now you feel disunity and the loneliness and the pain. But bottom line is the desire for justice is a very real experience of unity. Maskim? Okay, so we got rid of that. That doesn't explain the guy who goes into the school and shoots random people. They didn't hurt him. He doesn't even know who they are. That's not justice. The school shooter is not an example. It could
revenge.
It could be revenge. It could be revenge if they hurt him, but usually it's random people he doesn't even know. So my kasha is the.
Who says that's pleasure? Isn't that
what?
They want pain.
They want what?
They want pleasure. They're trying to get pleasure.
We're saying everybody wants pleasure. That's the theory. Right?
They're trying to avoid their own pain. Why they're doing that? That's a good question.
Why is that the way to... So here's my answer for that. Again, he's not going to answer every case, but my goal is just to show you plausible answers that make you realize this is what's going on. Then we can imagine there are a lot more answers. But here's the answer. The answer is... You see, if you look at the world, like people like to make systems that look at the world. So people like to say the world is about love and hatred. And it's like if you look at the world like that, then it's a very big question why somebody would shoot random people. But if you start to look at the world through the eyes of oneness and unity and disunity, so then what is the least unified experience in the world? What's the most painful experience in the world of it? If you start to measure the world this way, okay? By oneness, by unity and disunity. If you're doing that, what is the most painful experience?
Death.
Loneliness.
Because hatred is better than loneliness. Why? Still connected. The most saddest person in the world, in a world of unity and disunity, the saddest person in the world is the person who's like in school, who's see-through, who no one invites to anything. They walk right by them. You don't even taunt them. You don't say lines. They're just nobodies. That's the saddest thing in the world. Yeah.
We're looking at unity as not as just in the person and within this thing. It's unity as a whole in the universe.
Again, that's ultimate unity, but there are smaller unities. In Cholent, the unity is not universal.
Aloneness is the biggest unity in a certain sense also.
Okay, so good. So use that as another kasha. Why do we like being alone? That's another exception. If unity is the greatest thing, so then why do we like being alone?
I'm saying there's a unity to being alone, maybe.
Okay, so you give a territory. Okay, but first be oime that you're asking a good kasha. You're asking a very good kasha. You're giving a teretz already, but slow down. First enjoy the kasha. Okay? If we're saying that all pleasure is oneness, how come some people get pleasure out of being alone and locking the door, not letting anybody in? Right? Turning the phone off. Where's the pleasure in that? It sounds like the opposite of pleasure. If the principle is unity and disunity, it's a very legitimate kasha on this word. Okay? But first let's finish the guy in the random school shooter. The random school shooter is see-through. He doesn't exist. He's the loneliest person in the world. When he goes and he shoots 30 people, the rush that he has at that moment is an unbelievable pleasure. He exists. Everyone knows him. Of course, he would rather be carried on shoulders like a hero. That's a better pleasure. But being hated and being reviled is still an experience of unity to someone who didn't exist. In a world where you don't exist, negative attention is still existing. And that's a real pleasure to these people. Most of these people are loners who don't have any friends, and this is destructiveness is a lot easier to get attention, and now they exist. They're part of humanity. They're in the paper. They're famous, and it's a rush.
Could that explain the Trump shooter's motive, even though he was pro-Trump, apparently? He just wanted to...
First of all, he wasn't. He was.
Whatever. Sorry.
Every bad person in the world is pro-Trump, and every good person is anti-Trump. It's like the spin is crazy, but let's see. Okay, so I don't know.
Maybe if the answer is the reception is jagged, then
that's not a good enough answer. Saying it's jagged, you gotta explain the jaggedness. Answering that people are nuts is not a satisfactory answer.
it feels like the world is not justice and it's not fair, and this
Okay,
is bringing...
that'll be an answer. That's a possible answer.
So
You
they
also
should
minimize
why
it.
would they kill that guy?
What?
They should just name 100 people. They'll be just as famous. Why do
Yeah, they don't
kill
really
that?
care. That the result is enough. They have
Yeah,
to
I don't know. They're not thinking about that. They're not so nuanced. They're going like, maybe if I just cut off their pinky, people will say I'm the pinky killer. But like,
There are murderers who do stuff like that.
What?
There are murderers who do stuff like that. too.
Yeah, but that's only because they want to be like the craziest murderer, like the murderer who killed him and took their pinky, not only a pinky.
If
You know?
if I walk into a Walmart and I give about 50 people a 9mm gift in the knee, you're telling me that I wouldn't get as much fame? I'll get just as much fame.
No.
I don't need that.
That's
Right. You're right. You're right.
Okay, listen, fine. Okay, guys, but we don't need to haggle over these details. I just want to give a general understanding how the things that look like exceptions are not. They're really just revenge is a proof. Revenge is oneness. It is the search for intellectual oneness, which is justice. Random killing is the craving of being part of society. It is a need to be part of the universe. It is the craving of oneness. A deep one is the thrill seeker, the guy jumping out of the airplane. Here's how I explain that one. It's very deep. If I'm sitting in a dark room, I'm a little depressed. All there is a little light bulb, like one little light bulb. It gets depressing. So I got to go outside in the sun. And now I feel, oh, the sun's amazing. But let's say you're too depressed to go out in the sun. Right? So there's another way to do it, to get rid of the depression of a little bulb. Another way you can do it is, you sit in your little room with the bulb, and you turn your bulb off, and now you sit in the dark. And an hour later, you flip the bulb on. You go, oh, geschmack, it's so light in here. What are you doing in that case? I haven't increased any light. What have I done?
Contrast.
Deprive yourself of light to make the contrast.
I took a step back, and now I've recovered what I had. So I'm recovering the same light I had. Because I took a step backwards, I'm experiencing light. This is what we do with unity. Really, I'm supposed to become closer and more connected, have deeper relationships and more embracing relationships. But that's hard, and it's a challenge. The cop-out way to experience oneness is to pick fights and to make up, to take a step back and jeopardize what I already have, and then recover it. What I'm doing is I'm just experiencing the same things I already had. Whatever, like if I have a picture, I can cut it up into pieces and make a puzzle. Now I have like $1 million, and I made a puzzle. If I really didn't do anything new, I'm just back to where I started. I call this risk and recovery. This is the way a lot of people live life. It might sound like a joke in the light bulb case, but most people live life like this. Wherever we are, we get in trouble, we take risks, and when we survive and we escape the menahel, or whatever it is, and we get out of it, we feel the rush of my existence. But it's the same thing I already had. It's nothing new. It's picking fights, it's getting in trouble, it's risk and recovery. Risk and recovery is a standard. So it's not, you're not creating oneness. You broke something and then put it back together again. So you're replaying pre-existing oneness. The guy, you're not going to see pieces coming together in the case. So when the guy jumps out of an airplane, the thrill of the airplane was, he wanted to feel alive. He wanted to feel his life. He has a life. He has stuff. He worked out his whole life. He's a product of the oneness of the putting all of his pieces together. But he couldn't. He didn't want to go further. Going further was too traumatic or too risky. So he jeopardized the whole thing he had, and you're dying. And then your chute opens. You feel this rush of survival, and you feel alive again. But the exact life you had, it's like turning on the same bulb.
There has to be a healthy way of growth. Meaning, in your analogy, if you take it down then to the last line of logic, everyone's gonna walk around and shuffling in like slow steps because they're in perfect, emotional harmony. No, meaning you want to grow. So
yeah, this is a bad way to do it. The risk recovery is a negative way. I'm not advocating sitting in a room and turning the bulb off and jumping on a plane. That means that you're lacking the bravery to go into uncharted territory. You want to stay in. You're just replaying what you already have. There's no new experience.
Why is jumping out of a plane any different than practicing basketball? You're gonna fail by basketball.
No, practicing basketball, you're getting better and better and better. You're improving your shot. Jumping out of a plane is you're not getting any improvement. You took a step back. I was dead by the laws of physics till my chute opened. Now I'm back to where I was when I started. There's no progress. Okay, but guys, we're very late, and I want to get to an ending here, at least a landing place in this, something that's useful, something about God. Let me just do you quick 2 minutes about modern art, okay? Because I have a lot of answers for modern art. I'll just tell you a couple of them quick. The first answer to modern art is my favorite, but it ticks people off in college, is that modern art is not a kasha. Because what's the kasha? The kasha is I'm saying all pleasure is oneness, and modern art is pleasurable and it's not oneness. So my theory says no, modern art is not pleasurable. Everyone's too insecure to admit that they don't get it. Nobody wants to be the idiot, but meanwhile, no one likes it. No one ever liked it. There's nothing to it, and it's all total.
Like the banana. Jumping out of a plane also. Just doing it because the other guy did it. Similar to jumping out. It shows a disunity. All the exceptions are like that, no? Banana.
No, jumping out of a plane.
Because another guy found it fun, but I'm not.
No, jumping out of a plane is a real rush. It is a real rush. You feel alive. You feel alive because your life was at risk.
I'm saying for that.
What?
The contrast is a unity.
Okay.
Normality and
What?
the contrast is a unity.
I left these questions uncurrent.
While there's a banana taped onto it. It's a contrast that you like.
Well, I'm not here. I'm not. What?
There is a unity to modern art. There's a plain wall. There's a banana taped.
Okay, but maybe.
It's a certain.
Listen. What I like to
It's
say.
not conventional. That's why. It's
What I say to the artist is, listen, I'm an intelligent guy. Explain it to me. I have all day. I'm here. Tell me if the guy can't. I get that. But I want the guy to explain to me what he did. Show me.
Without the white wall, if it was all yellow.
Show me what you did. Show me what you did. Explain to me. I'll tell you if I'm buying it. I can understand things. Show me. An artist means you have a skill at somehow demonstrating. Show me what you did. Explain to me. Now, okay, fine. But fine, I don't need to fight you. I have 4 more answers. Here's the 4 more. I'm going to give you 4 more answers, okay? I like my answer, but here's the 4 answers. If my answer doesn't satisfy you, here's 4 more answers. Okay, but let's do them fast because I want to say the punchline of this talk so we can, for next time. Here's the 4 other answers, very fast. The next answer is yes, modern art is experience of oneness. It is, but not the visual oneness. It's the connection to the artist. A lot of people go, I feel so understood. He gets me. All those kind of lines. Those could exist. There could be emotional connection to an artist. I don't deny that. And that's oneness. But it's not a visual oneness, it's connection to the artist. It's a feeling of being understood or connected or on the same wavelength, that's acceptable. Another way to understand it is that this is very deep. Modern art is it is symmetrical. It's the symmetrical representation of asymmetry. Meaning if I want to draw a picture of brokenness, of suffering, of anxiety, of depression, things that are broken. So those pictures, the perfect distillation of depression is not going to be symmetrical. It is the symmetrical representation of depression. You nailed it. But you have to hear the words. The symmetrical representation of asymmetry is going to be asymmetrical. Does that make sense? What?
Yeah, they're all tying into each other.
Okay, they're all. I still think they're all BS. I don't believe anyone's really doing any of that stuff. Okay, but let's say. Okay, let's say. Okay, the last one is probably the real answer. Besides the first answer, is that if you live, and it explains a lot of other exceptions too. If you live in a world where there are rules. This is considered beautiful. This is considered strong. This is considered rich. This is considered smart. Or school, there are tests. And tests grade your knowledge. So if you're not good at those things and you don't know, so then you feel as a failure in that system. In any hierarchy, people who are not excelling at the hierarchy are left out, and they experience the pain of not fitting into the parameters that you're supposed to fit into. I didn't get an A, okay? So I'm left out of that excelling. I'm not excelling. So when you have a world of hierarchies cause pain by people who are not successful. So how do you solve that? One of the ways is when you blow up the whole hierarchy. And you say there is no real system, it's all a lie. If there is no truth, then I'm never wrong. If there's no morality, then I'm never bad. If marriage is not a thing, I'm not single. If money is evil, then I'm not poor. If I can blow up hierarchies, if I can say that there is no such thing as symmetry, then what modern art is, it's not the beauty of the art. It is the pleasure of modern art is not pleasurable. It's getting rid of the pain of not stelling zu, of not fitting in, which is really, for all practical purposes, the same thing as pleasure. The removal of pain feels good. It's not actual pleasure. Just the difference is one is getting out of the red and one's going positive. But if I'm in the hole and I get out of the hole, I pay off my debts. So paying off debt is not technically pleasurable. Just not, you got rid of pain. So in the continuum of pleasure pain, you move forward. Does that make sense? Right? So therefore, what modern art, the appeal of modern art, atonal music, poetry that doesn't, is anytime you get rid of the talent set, you're liberating all people from the feeling of inadequacy. And that is the real appeal for modern art. That's why modern art is associated with the left, because it's the same program. It's the same program. It's the dismantling of the structures that make me feel inadequate. If I get rid of all structure, that's the reason why they want immigrants. They don't want you to feel nationalism is evil. Every single thing that makes somebody feel good has to be blown up. Modern art is just one more example, and it really works. It gets rid of pain. Does that make sense? Okay, so good. So these are the exceptions. We could do more, but let me just tell you the punchline. At least for now. The punchline's like this. So what does that have to do? So fine. So we started from that pleasure and pain exists, and what I can do, when we do this with atheists, you can do this with anyone in the world. You can show them that every time they smile in their life, they just experienced oneness. Every time they're sad, they feel pain, they just experience disunity. To the point that I could give you the most poetic view of the world. You want to hear a poetic view of the world? Every single person in the world spends their entire life doing exactly the same thing. The artist sits in front of a canvas with a palette, taking his colors, trying to make a harmonized masterpiece. The chef does exactly the same thing. Just instead of having a palette of colors, he has a palette of ingredients. And he's attempting to make a harmonized masterpiece. When he nails it, he's happy, everyone's happy. When he fails, it's bad. The musician is doing the same thing. Just instead of colors or ingredients, he has notes, and he's trying to create a harmonized masterpiece. In relationships, we're trying to connect to other people in love, in friendship, and when we succeed, our palette is personalities and people. When we fit the things together, we have friends, we have cliques, we have groups, we have marriages, whatever it is, and I feel good. When we fight, it feels painful. The same thing with the facts, all the scientists and the philosophers and the economists and nutritionists, and everyone's doing the same thing. They're taking the facts and the phenomena of the universe and trying to figure out unified field theories, perfect diets, perfect nutrition, perfect workouts, taking all the data. When I figure out the perfect system, I have the recipe. The entire world spends their whole lives pursuing oneness. When I succeed, I feel joy. When I fail, I feel pain. Here is the simple Jewish view of the world. The deepest understanding of God and the deepest and the easiest at the same time. Truth is always simple. Here's the simplest understanding of God. What's the most important sentence in the whole Torah? In the whole Judaism? Probably Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. People think Shema means there is one God, like a fancy thing, monotheism. That's not what Shema Yisrael means. It's a mistake. I'll give you 2 sentences. See if you can tell me the difference. There is one God, and God is one. Do they mean the same thing? There is one God means what?
Means there's a single God,
As opposed to?
as opposed to having multiple gods.
Right. So there is one God means there's one, not many. That's monotheism. There is one God.
And there's not none.
But what does God is one mean? Right, I understand what not. But what does God is one mean?
He defines oneness.
Like how do you is one? One is a number. What does it mean to is one? You're not saying there's one of him, you're saying he is one. So here's what we believe. We believe that is the definition of God. God, you know what God for grown-ups is? You know what God is? God is oneness itself. Hashem is echad. He is echad. Not that there's echad of him. Hashem echad. God is one. He is oneness itself. Here's the simple way of understanding it. Again, this is only part 1. Part 2, I change everything. So don't look at it here thinking that this is the final result. But it's important to do part 1 first. Okay? Here's the punchline. Rabbi, don't leave yet. Rabbi, stay for 40 more seconds. Okay. 40 seconds. This is the punchline. Okay? You have there's 3 stages of the world. Okay? It's a puzzle. A puzzle has 3 stages. Stage number 1 is the cover of the box. A beautiful picture of a pond with a duck. Okay? Stage 2 is you take that picture, the factory, and they put it through a machine, they cut it up into 500 pieces and put it in a box. That's stage 2. Colorful cardboard. Stage 3 is you buy that, you put it on a table, and the whole family puts it together, and now you have a picture. Stage 1 is a beautiful picture, stage 3 is a beautiful picture. In between, you have fragments. Okay? What's the difference between stage 1 and stage 3? Not much, but the difference is nobody ever hung up the cover of the box on the wall. Right? Because they didn't do it. That's Milton Bradley, whoever made it. Right? Stage 3, we made. It's the same picture, but we made it. So this is all you have to know to understand God on the simplest way, the deepest way. When we say Hashem Echad, you know who God is? God is the cover of the puzzle box. That's Hashem. Hashem is oneness before the universe. Everything was one. If that's the case, so what is the universe?
Is that too?
Universe is Hashem didn't create anything. There's no creation. All he did is hide his oneness. The world is the oneness with the unity hidden. So all we see is trillions of things in the world. Every single thing you see in the world are pieces of God. We call it pirud. What's pirud mean? What's separation? It means this is not one anymore. Okay? It's the absence of God. See, if you're smart and you hide yourself, so you act foolish. If you're strong, the hiddenness of strength is weakness. What is the hiddenness of echad? Fragmentation, disunity. Okay? So we call it hester panov, the world, or pirud. What do they all mean? If Hashem is echad, so what is the hiddenness of echad? Multiplicity. If Hashem is echad, and we're saying that what is pirud? The fragmentation. So the universe is God with the unity hidden. So what is our job in life? To experience God. How do we do that? We put everything back together again. So we are designed. The purpose of a human being, the purpose of life, is we are puzzle makers. That's what we are, and that's how we are programmed. We were designed as puzzle makers. So when you have a metal detector, it's designed as a metal detector. So it beeps green next to metal and red when it's far away from metal. A human being is a unity detector. We have 5, 7 senses, and they all beep green next to oneness. And we all feel pain next to disunity. We are literally programmed to find oneness. That's all we are. From the moment we're born till the moment we die, all we do is search for pleasure. What is pleasure? Oneness. What is oneness? God. So now here's the end of this is where I'll end today. So what do you tell an atheist now? So you're an atheist, which means what? You don't believe in God. Okay, that's nice. So if you made up that God as a guy with a beard in the sky or whatever it is, then you could say he doesn't exist. But what are we saying? What is the Jewish claim of God? If you want to be an atheist, what doesn't exist?
Unity.
Right. God is an English word. What does God mean? Hashem Echad. So if you want to be an atheist, what do you have to deny? What doesn't exist? Oh, unity doesn't exist. Oh, you really? You don't believe in unity? Not only do you not believe in unity, but you're a sickle fanatic. You're like Lev Tahar. All you do your entire life is chase pleasure. You do nothing more than avoid pain and chase pleasure. That's all every human does. And we just proved you that what's pleasure? Oneness. Every single person is chasing God all day long. They have no idea that that's God, though. They think they're chasing, that God has to be a weird thing. But Hashem is Echad. They're chasing Echad all day. There's never ever been an atheist. Everyone believes in God. If God is Echad. So a guy will, is there any answer if you're an atheist? What's the answer for an atheist to this argument? What they say is, well, that's not how I define God. Okay, so fine. I accept that. But then you can't say you're an atheist. What you could say is, I'm an atheist of a lot of gods. But the Echad one, that one I believe in. Because I believe in Echad, I believe in pleasure. So it's a little weird to be an atheist of every God except the Old Testament one, because that's sort of like the only one that really matters. That's like the one that started the whole thing. You know what I mean? So you can't call yourself an atheist if you believe in the biblical God. Well, the biblical God is not G-O-D. The biblical God is called Echad. An atheist doesn't believe in Echad, but everyone believes in Echad. If you are searching for pleasure, you worship Echad. And everyone worships Echad. Yeah.
How does this define, with Torah beliefs, how does this define pleasures that are not aligned with Torah beliefs?
Like what? Good. At least we can do next time. But I'm done. But I'll talk as long as you want. But I'm saying, anybody was saying to get to the punchline. This is the punchline of part one. There's no answer over here. You understand? You have to see it. Atheist is trapped. Because it's real. So the question is, so what's the big deal of believing God?
You can't believe in unity but not believe in God. You're connecting God to unity. Who says
what? What do you ask? Go.
God is no
I don't believe there's a God that created the world. We're all one unity.
What?
Unity feels good.
Who?
Unity feels good. There's no God.
But you believe in unity.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. That's all you have to believe. There's no word God. What word is God? What does God mean?
Creator.
Why do you have to believe in creator? According to this talk, there's not even a creator. It all is. There is no creation.
It waters down everything.